Calaroga Shark Media.
Oh man, Bob Newhart has passed away. I was just sitting out on the deck, seriously putting together Friday's show. I had just published an episode of Ballot, our political podcast, and texted Mark Francis, my business partner, to tell him I really enjoyed the episode. And he wrote back, "I thought you'd be working on Bob Newhart." And I was like, oh no, and jumped on the internet, and I see the news here. Bob has passed away at age 94, his death announced by his longtime publicist, Jerry Digney. Jerry did not cite a cause of death. Bob's wife, Virginia, passed away in 2023 after 60 years of marriage. They had 4 children. The Washington Post wrote Bob Newhart was still living with his parents when he was 30. He was a balding, slouch-eyed former accountant who talked in a calculated, halting stammer. He was no one's idea of a superstar, yet within a year, his understated comedy routines had made him a national sensation. Yeah, do you know about this? Newhart's first album got him a Grammy. He became the first comedian with a #1 record and the star of 2 long-running sitcoms, The Bob Newhart Show and Newhart. There was a third one. It didn't last long, and that one was titled Bob. I appreciated the joke in calling it Bob. His debut album, The Button-Down Mind of Bob Newhart, soared past the recordings of Frank Sinatra and Elvis Presley to reach #1 on the Billboard charts for 14 weeks in 1960. It was also the first comedy album to sell more than 1 million copies. Bob Newhart remains the only comedian to win Grammy Awards for Best New Artist and Album of the Year. It'd be hard to imagine that happening ever again in modern times. Newhart, best known for doing basically a straight man, often in the form of a phone call. In one of the phone calls, he imagined a press agent telling President Abraham Lincoln, "Listen, Abe, what's the problem? You're thinking of shaving it off? Abe, don't you see? That's part of the image." The Bob Newhart Show ran on CBS from 1972 to 1978, part of a lineup that included, listen to this powerhouse lineup, The Bob Newhart Show, The Mary Tyler Moore Show, All in the Family, and The Carol Burnett Show, which is the quote-unquote worst of that lineup. I don't even know how to rank those. Wow. On that show, Bob Newhart played a Chicago psychologist coping with his patients and all their quirks. Suzanne Pleshette played his wife on that show. Bob insisted that the couple be childless, saying, "I didn't want to do a certain kind of show, which was the dumb father who keeps getting in these pickles and these precocious children and the mother get it out of him. That was one of the few conditions that I insisted on, and I think it was one of the factors that made the show work." The other show, Newhart, ran from 1982 to 1990. That finale famous because Bob is knocked unconscious by an errant golf ball, and he awakes aside Pleshette in the bed of their Chicago bedroom from the other show. Bob Newhart in character says, "Honey, wake up. You won't believe the dream I just had." Suzanne Pleshette is in the bed and goes, "All right, Bob, what is it?" Newhart says, "I was an innkeeper in a crazy little town in Vermont." Bob Newhart was proud to receive the Mark Twain Prize for Humor because the first person to win the award was Richard Pryor. Richard Pryor had told Bob a story in which Pryor had stolen a copy of The Button-Down Mind of Bob Newhart. Newhart thought Pryor meant he had stolen part of a routine. Pryor said, "No, I stole your record from a record store in Peoria, Illinois." Newhart said, "Richard, I used to get $1 an album in royalties." Pryor turned and said, "Somebody give me $1." Pryor handed Newhart the $1 as if repaying a debt. Bob Newhart, all-time great. Age 94. I'm bummed about this. I'm sure you are too. All right, in the morning, the normal episode, and I'll probably wind up doing a bonus episode in the late morning as the reactions come in and more is said about Bob. Right now, I just did a quick search on Twitter. It is 4:52 p.m. Eastern on Thursday afternoon, and the only thing I'm really seeing is from Al Franken here, who wrote, "Bob Newhart was a giant, a genius, and a great guy. I'll always remember when he hosted SNL and did a stellar show. He was, as you might expect, a joy to work with. May his memory be a blessing." See you in the morning.